So let's wrap up the 18th chapter of The Secret of the Indian by Reid. The cupboard was destroyed, or the key was lost. The cupboard has been fixed, and Boone and Ruby Lou are trapped in this world. They are living in a dollhouse at Emma and Tamsin's house, and Patrick is staying there also. And we will continue from a little ways before the video cut off last time. This was fine for everyone but Omri. He felt very much alone and left out. Visiting occasionally and seeing for himself only made him sadder. He longed for Little Bear and Bright Stars to keep him company, or even Matron, but there was no way. There would never be any way again. It made his heart very heavy, and very frightened when he thought of Boone and Ruby, with them forever, unable to get home and in constant danger of discovery. One day, 2 weeks after the storm, Patrick and Emma went over to Omri's house. "Boone and Ruby Lou asked us to bring them here," Emma explained. "They want to talk about the future." The conference was held in Guion's room, which, even though he was not around, was nerve-wracking. He might walk in at any moment. There was no bolt on this door. Besides, the roofers had at last arrived and were banging and crashing about, throwing down tiles into the front garden, where they smashed on the stump of the tree, and beginning to remove the broken beams, preparatory to putting on a whole new roof. Every few seconds something hurled past the window and landed with a crash below. This meant they might not hear Guion if he approached. Omri closed the window and the curtains, though it was broad daylight, to keep out the noise. Then he switched Guion's desk lamp on, and they all sat around Ruby Lou and Boone, who were seated on a poof made of a large eraser. "Listen, folks," Ruby began, and they all leaned forward to hear her. "I wouldn't want to hurt your feelings none. I mean, you kids have made us feel real welcome, giving us that special house and all, but we just can't settle in. It ain't safe. Every time a door opens, I get me a heart attack. And besides, I keep having nightmares about them big blowing up the world things Pat told me about. Now we want to get back home. But Billy here explained to me the whole thing about the key getting blown away, and it's real bad news. What are we going to do?" Nobody knew what to answer. The silence stretched. As always, when things were really desperate, Boone was dry-eyed and steady as a rock. "Couldn't we try some other key?" Omri said. "I have." The others looked at him. "With the cupboard, I've tried every key in the house, just on the off chance, but none of them ever fit." "Sure is a pity. With the cupboard looking so new and fine, makes me want to jump right in," said Boone sadly. Ruby put her arm around his shoulders. "Don't you start now, Billy, or you'll have me bawling too." "I ain't bawling," said Boone, "but I sure am getting mighty homesick. It can make a man cry to think of never riding the prairies or the deserts again, or even settling his favorite hat back on his ears." This did cause him to give a deep sniff. "And another thing, how's me and Ruby gonna get hitched if we can't get us a preacher? 'Tain't right us living in that house together, even in separate rooms, when the knot ain't tied." Ruby gave him a look that suggested that she might not have worried too much about that, but she glanced at Emma and said nothing. "It looks to me," said Emma, "as if what we'll have to do is just keep trying keys. Old keys, just keep trying and trying until we find one that works." Again they were silent. None of them believed that would ever happen. This business was a one-off, and they all knew it. "And meanwhile what?" said Boone. "Just keep on as you are, I'm afraid," said Omri with a deep, miserable sigh. They had something to eat, and Omri, who had a special tea prepared, tried to turn it into a bit of a party, but it was no use. They were all just too upset and scared about the future to enjoy it. At last, Emma put Ruby in her pocket, and Boone, with some assistance, clambered on his favorite perch, with a leg each side of Patrick's ear, facing out and well masked by hair. He said it was the nearest thing to riding. Omri went out with them to the gate. The roofers had gone home for the day, leaving the front garden in chaos. There were tiles and broken bits of wood everywhere. The front lawn and the hedge dividing the garden from Hobble Road were all chopped up and smothered with debris. "Dad'll go ape when he sees this," said Omri, and then he stopped. He'd seen something. Something that in the first second he didn't comprehend because it didn't belong. Not that bright color. He paused to look closer. The others were ahead of him, staring down the road toward the station. Omri reached up his hand to the top of the hedge, and then he saw what it was. He didn't shout and jump and cheer. It was too important for that. He simply stood there with his hand raised, touching it, not pulling yet, just feeling deep inside him what it meant. That narrow bit of red satin ribbon sticking out between the twigs. And that's the end of chapter 18.